Moving on to Jared
lay
Goff,
hands on you, what you want
headed down to New Orleans to face Drew Brees and the Saints. End of the first half, Alvin Kamara runs in the touchdown. He had 3 in the first half, but the Saints up 35-17 at the break. But the Rams would climb all the way back. Goff finding Cooper Kupp on the 41-yard pass play. 2-point conversion would tie it at 35. Then later in the fourth, Saints now up 38-35. Drew Brees finds Michael Thomas for the 72-yard touchdown. Thomas had 211 yards on the day. And, yep, you've probably seen this already. Pulls out the cell phone to celebrate. Saints win 45-35, improving to 7-1. And here is Drew Brees after the game.
It's a very meaningful game. Trying to keep things in perspective that, each win counts the same, right, on the stat sheet. But when you talk about playoff implications and all those things, that's who we aspire to be. So knowing that, hey, that was the undefeated team, that was the team that was leading the NFC, yeah, that's a big win, obviously. But they're going to keep winning games, I'm sure. I want us to keep winning games, and, we'll see how it shakes out in the end.
Chris, how impressive was the Saints' 45-35 win over the Rams?
Well, first of all, when I saw Michael Thomas pull out that cell phone, I thought he was trying to get a hold of Akeem Talib just to let him know his boy Marcus Peters needed a little help out there. He needed some backup.
Calling for help.
Yeah, because Marcus Peters was not about that life. He did not want to get up on Michael Thomas and try to press him. He can't win that one.
When he pressed the phone, he did press in 3 numbers.
Yeah.
He didn't press in your normal digits. It was like 911. Help.
Radio for backup. But no, listen, this is an impressive win, but what happened yesterday is about what I thought would happen. The home team was going to win that game. If they played that one in the Coliseum, the Rams would probably come out on top. But they played it down in the Superdome, and that's a different Saints offense when they're down there in the Dome. I don't know if it's the hoodoo, I don't know if it's the who that, but it's a different type of offense. And when you can have Alvin Kamara split out and run routes like a receiver, when you can have Michael Thomas do what he did yesterday, Traquan Smith coming to the party, Ben Watson showing up, there are a lot of guys that Drew Brees can spread the football around to, and they took advantage of that Rams defense and some of the things that they had been seeing in their film study. One of the most impressive parts about that game offensively for me, for the Saints, was no sacks on Drew Brees. This is the second consecutive week where that Saints offensive line has not allowed Drew Brees to get sacked. We all know about Aaron Donald, that defensive front of the Rams. They traded for Dante Fowler Jr., but guess what? They didn't allow their quarterback to get sacked. Last week, playing against the Minnesota Vikings, they didn't allow their quarterback to get sacked. That was a Vikings defense that had 10 sacks yesterday against the Detroit Lions. So if you can protect Drew Brees and they're able to hold serve down the stretch and maintain home field advantage, all of a sudden it's a different conversation around the Rams if they got to go down to the Superdome for the NFC Championship game.
And I would say this is not the typical Saints team that we've seen in the past where they were prolific as far as throwing the ball, that you were like, man, this is a dome team. They don't have the physicality. If they did have to travel north or bad weather, we don't think they can do it. They're not that way anymore because of that offensive line and because of the dual threats that they have in the backfield. What I liked about the game last night was, because I know going into this game, Sean Payton wanted to take advantage of that lack of a great run defense that the Rams had. And he was going to bang Mark Ingram at him. He was going to give Mark Ingram 20 carries. Sometimes you have a game plan, but when you get into game, because of the defense and other things, you have to change and or adapt. Most teams don't do it. Saints fumble the ball. Ingram fumbles the ball. He gets a bone bruise on his forearm. So you knew after that he wasn't going to be a huge role in what they were trying to do. All right, Kamara, let's give him the ball. He has 19 carries. He's got 5 receptions out of the backfield. So I'm going to take that same game plan with an undersized third down back, and I'm still going to pound it up in there. So I think that where they are right now, offensively with Sean Payton, they can do so many different things. But, man, if you have an offensive line that is not going to allow pressure on Drew Brees, what defense in the NFL is going to be able to stop that?
I mean, that was, by the way, both offensive lines, I want to give them credit for keeping their quarterbacks clean. There were not only no sacks, but very few pressures throughout this game. It felt like both quarterbacks were having time, which is why the critical sequence is the one you alluded to. Ingram fumbles. It's 14-14. It looks like you're going to have to score every time. It's 14-14. Ingram fumbles, sets the Rams up with great field position. The Saints defense gets their first of a couple key 3-and-outs. Force them into a field goal. They run a fake field goal. Now, they were very close to getting it, but they ended up not getting it, at least being ruled they didn't get it. Touchdown Saints. Next possession, missed field goal. touchdown Saints. Next possession right before the half, interception, the great play by the middle linebacker. That was a hell of a catch by him, reaching back across his body. Touchdown Saints. Now it's 35-14. And no matter where that game's played, you're down 21 to the Saints. Unless they make massive errors in the second half, it's going to be very difficult to come back. The Rams got it close, but when you're down that much, you have to play a perfect football game the rest of the way. Can't have the one mistake. Can't have Marcus Peters, who's playing at less than 100% with no safety help on Michael Thomas. You're going to lose the football game, and that's what they did. I agree with you on the home field thing. The Saints feel like a different team in that building.
Well, here's the thing. They didn't have to punt in the first half, right? So when you start talking about them going up 35-14, if you're Sean McVay, you realize Todd Gurley can't run me back into this football game. I got to put this on Jared Goff. And I think we found out that Jared Goff, although he's a good quarterback, he's not quite on that level where he can go blow for blow and match scores with Drew Brees. And that's exactly what they did. They allowed the scoreboard to dictate the offensive game plan for the Rams. So everybody wants to make a big deal out of this Saints run defense. I don't know if their run defense is as good as the statistics are, but guess what? When I have to force the opposing team to throw the ball because the scoreboard is 35-14, that takes care of the Todd Gurley problem for me altogether, and I think that's exactly what Drew Brees set out to do early in that game. So the missteps that you had, the fake field goal that they didn't convert on, and the turnover late by Jared Goff throwing it to Alex Anzalone, that was the difference in terms of dictating the complexion of the game, and Drew Brees was able to do enough at the end of the game to close it out.
Home field, obviously significant. However, who's the best team in the NFC in your mind?
Well, I got to say it's the New Orleans Saints. I mean, these are 1A and 1B right now, and I think that these two teams will continue to develop as the course of the season goes on. The mark of a good football team is a team that continues to get better as the season progresses. But if you want to ask me what team has more of the upside, I would say it's the Los Angeles Rams. I mean, you added Dante Fowler Jr., a lot of young players. Right. Hopefully you get Aqib Talib back at some point. I think that will make a difference. And the Rams have an easier schedule through their last 7 games than the Saints do in the last 8 games.
The Rams definitely have an easier path. The Rams likely will, despite this loss, still end up with the 1 seed because the Saints got to play Carolina twice. They also play Pittsburgh. Like, Saints have a...
There's only one team that the Saints play that's not going to be in playoff contention. That's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Exactly.
That's
right.
it.
And meanwhile, the Rams have another game against San Francisco, another game against Arizona. But I think the Saints are better than them. I think the Saints can go to Los Angeles and win. The Rams, to me, have looked gettable the last month. Seattle almost had them. Denver almost had them. We know Green Bay almost had them, and they got beat yesterday. The Rams are not a team that, in my eyes, has been impressive outside of Los Angeles this year. They have two substantial road wins. Those are against the Niners and the Raiders, 2 of the worst teams in football. So the Rams might be on their way to 14-2 or even 13-3, but they are, to me, a team that against the best opponents is gettable because the defense without Aqib Talib is not shut down and they still don't have pass rush.
They need Talib coming back. I think they'll generate enough pass rush through having Fowler there. Fowler had a tough week. Gets traded, flying to Los Angeles, then got to fly another 5 hours back on Friday to New Orleans. So I thought what he provided them was very, very good. Their nickel situation as far as pass defense is bad, and their linebackers are awful in pass coverage. So I don't know how much that's going to change. I think right now the Rams are a better team than the Saints, even in this game, even after seeing the game yesterday.
Chris Canty, we're going to see you a little later. We're going to make sure you have Brian in check for us, please. Go.
Okay.
Coming up. How tough will it be for Aaron Rodgers to drag the Packers to the playoffs? That's next on First Things First.
We might see Canty